Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do a satin stitch, which is essentially just filling in a pattern versus doing an outline. You could totally do an outline for objects or flowers or whatever picture that you're working on, which is also really cute. I do love an outline of a flower. But for this case, I'm just going to show you, in case you'd like to fill it in, just a way to do that. So for these, since I am filling it in, I want to use a thicker weight of thread. So I'm using all 6 strands that are originally in your skein of thread. So instead of pulling apart 3, which would, to do that folding method where I make the loop on the end, I'm just going to show you how to do it with a knot, which is actually which is another way to do it, especially if you're working just with a art hoop. If you're doing clothing, I would still recommend doing the other way, making a little loop on the back and splitting the thread in half and then folding it again. But for this, since we are using a hoop, and to save a little bit of time, I'm just going to show you how to do a knot. So there are 6 strands on here. I cut a length of thread, and then I'm just going to put it through my needle threader here. And then again, I would just kind of hold the end there to pull it through. The more strands you use, the thicker it is, so it could be a little bit harder to pull through a needle threader, but that's why it's good to just kind of hold the end. So for this, we're already, it's a loose end. We don't have a loop on the end. So what I do is I make a knot just by, sometimes I'll lick the tip of my finger there, and I just spin it around my finger a few times, and then I just roll it off to create this knot. If you have another method of making a knot, feel free to do that. This is just one of those quick ways to make a knot right at the end there. And then once you start stitching, then the thread sort of just secures anyway, so but it's just good a way to start. So I'm going to take my pattern and I'm going to start from the middle of the circle there, and I'm going to pull this up, and then it's just going to pull that knot on the back, so just like so. And to do a satin stitch, I mean, you could do an outline if you wanted, then fill in the middle, but the way I do it is I sort of just start working from the edge and work my way to the middle. So I'm going along the edge here. I'm pulling this strand through. And then I'm going to come up a little bit higher from the back. And for this, you're always going to be working from the back here, and I'm just going to go back down to that circle again. See how it made this little line. So now I'm going up again along my edge and meeting it back down to the middle. So I'm gradually working my way across the flower. And it's starting to slowly fill in as I do that. Pull it up, push it back down. And now my flower is filling in. And then on the other end, you're going to start to angle up again, because now that I surrounded this little circle with my stitches, I'm just going to keep going until I fill it in completely. Even if it means working on a bit of an angle. So now I'm pushing the needle in through the line on this side. And you can do your stitches in any direction. I mean, you can start in the middle and go to the sides. You could start from the top and go to the bottom, or bottom from the top. So it really just depends on how you're feeling and which direction you want it to go in. So I'll just probably do one more little stitch to kind of finish it off. And now you have one petal complete, and then you complete that process around on the other flowers petals. Okay, I finished my flower petals. So on the back, I'm just going to weave in a couple strands of thread to create my little knot to finish it off. Again, come up through that hoop that I made, pull it through, do it again. Okay, I'll snip that off. And then to do the middle, I'm gonna do essentially the same thing. I'm just working with a smaller area. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of yellow thread here. It's probably too much, but I like to have a little slack. Okay, just stick yellow strand through. And again, I'm just using all 6 strands for this one. Just make a little knot. And then I'm going to come up this one start of the circle here, and then just do a satin stitch across. So I sort of start on a small end there, and then just make my way across to fill in the little circle. In any direction for this is fine, whatever feels natural, or if there's a specific angle you want to go in. But like I said, the satin stitch is kind of fluid and you can sort of make it your own. And then the more strands you use, the thicker it is. See, it got a little knot there, so I'm just gonna pull that out a little bit and pull it back down again. Let's see, I think that's good. Now you have a little flower. And then the back, just gonna do a little knot. I'm not really gonna weave it through a few times. I'm just gonna knot it because it's a pretty small space there. And it is pretty secure already. And snip off the back. As you can see, the back looks pretty similar to the front, just a little bit more lumps, but that's okay for the back because the front you just want to make sure it feels nice and smooth. And then I'm gonna go ahead and stitch my other flower. And then after that, I'll show you how to remove the stabilizer and to finish off your project.